Well, we've got some Brussels sprouts here, and all around the edge here are winter squashes and some crookneck squash, a couple artichokes, cantaloupes, and some watermelons. They're on the black plastic to keep them warmer. Just noticed a ladybug larva. They eat aphids. We've been growing beneficial insects in the greenhouse to eat the aphids and other little problem insects. And there are 4 pear trees here and 1 plum tree that we planted in the winter time. They were bare root. Up here we've got a couple artichokes and kale. This is winter boar kale, and they're collard greens, lacinato kale, and Brussels sprouts along the edge. And you can just see at the very edge where there's going to be a trellis there are peas, sugar snap peas. And we've got a couple apricots and a peach. Got a plum here and another artichoke and an apricot and 2 cherries. Over here we're making an arbor. There are a couple of grapes that we've started. These are all flowers, and then thornless blackberries. We're going to make a trellis for them too, and they'll be growing alongside the house. Over here we've got raspberries, and then along the fence we've got 3 different grapes. These are potatoes, and we've got more planted coming up. This is the garlic that is just about ready to harvest. More potatoes in here. We're going to have beans along this trellis area. Got Brussels sprouts, collard, and more kale. This big bed is going to have shade cloth on it for all of our lettuce this summer when it starts getting too hot for lettuce to really grow well. These are all greens. We've got some beets, lettuces, some kale and mizuna, and peas. And mostly the same. I planted them in succession. The oldest ones are in the first bed, and then the oldest peas, and then I just went, as the season progressed, I just kept planting these peas, and then the last ones here. These we call the geo beds because they've got our geothermal pipes that go to the house underneath them, so they're kind of warm. So this is sort of leftover stuff from the winter, some beets and lettuce, and some peas that are getting getting a little too hot for them. So I'm transitioning into melons along this bed, and I've got a tomato. Those will grow up along the trellis. And these I'll be ripping out and putting in melons and maybe a couple cucumbers or something. And the trellis also for the summer. It gets pretty cold here in the winter time. But these plants here, they think that they're in a different climate. Like maybe down in, I don't know, Sacramento, something like that. Maybe even better sometimes. Got peppers, tomatoes, cucumbers, and more tomatoes and cucumbers, flowers. Some of these are for the beneficial insects, like the ladybugs. The adults need to eat pollen, so I've got some flowers in here for them to eat. And back here, again, more tomatoes and cucumbers. I do all my starts in here. Just some leftover cucumbers and some baby lettuces I plant every few weeks. And these, I'll be transitioning these beds to more warm weather stuff. And here are some beans. A lot of these things I planted in February when the light was getting strong enough, but it was still pretty cold out. So here on the side of the greenhouse, these are the geothermal pipes. They're pretty warm, and here's a water pipe. The geothermal comes out from our geothermal well by the entrance of the greenhouse, and then laterals come off of it. You can see one starting here, and they go underneath all of the beds. Okay. Now this over here is a lot of greens, and this chard, some red Russian kale. These I also planted like January, February, so we'd have a lot of good greens over the winter. Some broccoli and spinach and kale. Now some of these things might just stay in here all summer, even though they could be outside, but then when winter comes again, they'll just have an extra long season and we can keep eating them in winter too. I think technically this is on the neighbor's land, but you know, nobody was using it. It was just filled with trash and stumps and stuff. So we cleared this out. I'm putting irrigation into it, and this is going to be a corn patch. We're using this space now. I've got 4 artichokes, got asparagus, and this is a big old grape, big old Concord grape that was here before we got here, and it just puts out a tremendous amount of great fruit. So this is the compost pile I'm adding to right now. I keep it tarped to keep the moisture in, and I just layer straw, which I buy locally, and all of our food scraps, stuff like this I just picked, and put out soil. If I'm clearing an area, you know, weeds, just dead, you know, old plants from the greenhouse, and I layer it all together, and I use the compost. The compost that comes out of it is really nice after about a year. We also collect leaves in the fall. I made a big pile of them here. They make leaf mold. It's just fantastic. It takes, again, I mean, a year is ideal for it to get wet and freeze and thaw, and then it's just the best mulch for a lot of different stuff. I tend to use that in the summer after the plants are established and they need mulch to keep the moisture in. Now this is some compost that I've been saving that I'll be adding to that pile. This is an old pile, last year's pile. You can see that it's just, I mean, it's just like fantastic. It's like the best fertilizer you could have. So this has been 2 years of work. When we got here, it was just, you know, a typical grass-covered backyard and front yard. The first thing we did was these cold frames. We got the glass windows for them, so we could start all of our lettuces and greens, peas, carrots, beets, we got here in January, so I started all that stuff in the cold frames right away. And then we developed garden beds, started developing garden beds in the backyard. And that first fall, we started the greenhouse. We took some time, you know, weekends to do it, and we enclosed it in plastic in the fall, and then got the geothermal in January. So this is our second summer these are our second tomato plants and all that, so I'm kind of learning a bit more. And this past winter, it's June now, back in January, that's when I started putting the fruit trees in and started taking over the front yard. We had to take out 3 old trees, and then we were able to put in 14 new trees. So that's really exciting. We love the fruit that's going to come off of them before too long. And the raspberries started producing really quickly, and I know the blackberries will too. So this is one of our favorite spots in the yard right now because of all the good food. We just come out here, and the kids love it too. We come out here and eat salads. Lettuce, spinach, peas. These peas will be ready really soon. And it's just, it takes a lot of time, but it's a great way to enjoy my day.